All right, we are live on Facebook and ready to go. So, welcome
Awesome.
everyone to our live recording of the Do Better podcast. Today's topic, we are going to talk about how to stay motivated during COVID-19. And it's kind of funny because Joe messaged me about, I don't know, 30 minutes ago, and he was like, "What are we talking about today?" But he managed to get some notes together. So, we actually have a little bit more organization than I thought we would. So, Joe, do you want to go ahead and introduce, work through the document you put together?
Yeah. So the whole reason why this episode came about is because um, 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, I forget which week it was, but definitely the start of March 13th um, was the last day I was in my classroom. And since then, I've been out of my classroom and working from home, which you would think that would be an easy transition, but it's so um, difficult. um, I know for me, like I can't imagine um, people who have kids and trying to teach, work, and continue with the other household duties. So if you are a parent, I applaud you. You guys are doing amazing work right now. Even if you feel like you're failing at providing an education to your child, you guys are doing awesome. No one prepared for this, and it has been such a huge change for not just for me, but for everyone. Um, yeah, March 13th was definitely a sad day for me, as well as Barbara. Barbara's message saying March 13th was her last day in the classroom as well. I think March 13th was the last day for a lot of people in Virginia who are teachers or work in the school system. So it was definitely a shock to us. Um, so after that, I realized that I needed to do some work, and I had all these plans together, but nothing stuck together. And I was just always, I felt like my wheels were spinning and I was stuck in mud and I wasn't going anywhere. And then I realized I haven't watched any Netflix in a while. So I was like, oh, I can watch Netflix while working, which was the biggest mistake I could ever do because binge watching Tiger King or binge watching The Witcher or any of those great shows on Netflix, you have to kind of pay attention to what's going on, and your full attention can't go to what you're actually supposed to be doing at that present moment. Um, so, so what? So Megan, how has COVID-19 changed what you've been doing at home?
Well, so I work from home anyway, so it really hasn't changed a whole lot, except now I have to try to do it with my toddler running around. Well, he's not even a toddler anymore. He's 4. I need to stop referring to him as a toddler. But so it's just made it a little bit trickier to balance, working and everything. During the first couple of weeks of staying home, which we just started staying home the week same time frame, March 13th, we had Taylor's spring break, and we were with my parent. Took him to my parents' condo at the beach for spring break. That was planned, and it's pretty isolated, so it wasn't a big deal. And so starting March like 18th or 19th, since then we've been here at the house. But we were hosting that conference, the Do Better Couch to Camp online conference. So my husband was working from home, but there was a lot of me. I wrote out a schedule for us, but it wasn't like we're going to start with meditation and then math and have an art project. It wasn't anything that organized. It was just who is in charge of the child during these times. And it was funny because like the one time I didn't do that, I didn't have the schedule written out, and my husband forgot to feed my son lunch. We definitely need to have this schedule here. But anyway, so for the first few weeks, it really wasn't much different because I was working so much on the conference that I just kind of, it had to happen that like for his job, fortunately, he didn't have any big projects going on. So it was like, I need these times to be downstairs working and making sure everything's good for the conference. And you get to watch Taylor. And we switched off. Like it was pretty even, half and half throughout the day. Now, last week was a little bit, last week was my hardest week. We'll talk about that more when we get into the questions. This week, what I was able to do, projecting out, knowing that we would be home for a while, I didn't schedule stuff. So I've been trying to limit scheduling stuff to between 3 and 5 p.m. because that's about when my husband's done working. And then I'm doing like just hanging out with Taylor and then like kind of trying to do some work at night. But I'm really fortunate because my schedule is so flexible. The stuff that I'm doing right now is, you know, creating courses, and it's all projects that I can do if I want to, but I don't have to at the moment. So I'm in quite a different position than most people, unfortunately. Fortunately for me, but unfortunately from like an perspective.
And I don't, so for my take, like, so my schedule, usually when when I was back in classroom, I would I would leave the house by 6 o'clock, get to work from 7 to 3 o'clock. And then after 3 o'clock, I would go to my clients' homes after school and provide services to my clients. And then after that, I would get home about 6:30, cook, clean, do what I need to do for the next day. And that was my routine. But now, like, it seems like I should have a lot more time to get so much stuff done, but I'm finding myself either one, I'm in my office from 9 o'clock until 8 o'clock at night, and I still don't have like what I wanted done. Um, and I also don't accomplish like certain like health things I want to finish, like going to like working out in my gym or meal prepping or focus on eating proper nutritious foods. So I was at like a loss for like 2 weeks. I was like, what am I doing? Like, and what can I do better? So one of the first steps I realized that I need to do is I need to sit down and actually plan out my week. What does everyone else think? Megan, what do you feel about making a plan for a week, like in a planner, or does that help you?
I mean, in general, even without COVID, I need something like that because I usually have so many different projects going on. But yeah, it's definitely been helpful, but it's more, I try to do, again, more of a logistics piece. So if anyone has children and you're kind of juggling, I think I apologize for any men that are on here, but at least in my life, it just gets kind of assumed that I'll take care of all the things. It's just like, I don't know if it's because I'm the one that thinks of all the things or like how that happens, but it's just, you know, in terms of like what food, like meals we're going to have, having groceries, dishes, laundry, making sure the child is taken care of and accounted for, all of that kind of stuff. Like, if I don't do anything with it, obviously my husband will step in, but I just, you know, I kind of like can't, for my own purposes, like I need to know when I'll be getting my work done. So it can't just be like a fly by the seat of your pants type thing. So trying to have like a logistical plan, at least around like who's responsible for what, and delegating, Radhika said that too, planning and delegating is key, has been really important. And I'm the one who's doing that. So I'm the one who's, you know, kind of identifying the various things that we might need to have on our radar. And of course, my husband like chimes in and stuff too. But so we're just that family dynamic, whereas some people might be living without children or on their own or whatever. So obviously that changes up some stuff, but that's been really helpful. So I plan in, I work out in the morning and he's responsible for things. And then I'm based like right now, because like I said, I can be flexible with my schedule from like 9 until 2 or 3. I'm hanging out with my son, and then maybe answering some emails here and there when he's having like his independent time. And then from 3 to 5, I'm working and he's hanging out with the son and like getting dinner ready for my son, our son. And then from 5 to 6, I'm getting our dinner ready so he can work out. And then we start the bedtime routine. And then by like 7:30, hopefully my son's asleep. And then I usually do an additional like 2 hours of work, which is weird for me because I had really gotten to this point where I didn't work past like 5 or 6. And I was so proud of that accomplishment last year. And now I'm back to like, well, this is the only time that I can get that done. But I'm also doing a lot of like give yourself grace and checking in to see, I have that like general plan. And I found for me, it's easier if we can have, we shift things around if I have a meeting or he has a meeting and there needs to be a shift, but having like a general framework of like, okay, this is mom's time to do these things, then, and dad's time to do this. And like, we have our general pattern for the day. It has been really helpful, especially for my son too, because he, knowing who he's going to be with and what's going to be happening a little bit is helpful. But having that general plan. And then if something goes off a little bit, like maybe I try to wake up to work out and I'm just like not feeling it yet. And I don't want to get up yet. I try to just give myself grace. Like, that's fine. It's okay if you get extra sleep today, or maybe you miss this workout. Or if I have like a meeting I have to plan and I can't plan it during the time I want to, again, but it's open communication and like being clear with each other about what we're doing.
I love that. I love that open communication. I'm kind of on the other side, but we'll get to that. But like, I'm just looking at the chat box, and there's a lot of listeners that are saying that, the bullet journal works for them. They also use different type of planners that works for them. I agree. I love planners. Like I would call myself a planner. I would call myself a very pro planner person, which I love my planner. I get very particular about what I like. So like for me, the first 2 weeks I was out, I didn't plan one bit, and I realized, so I didn't plan at all, and I failed at a lot of tasks, and some of the tasks took me a lot longer to complete. So yeah, I totally agree that planners are like one of the best things to use to keep track of what task I have to do and when to complete it by. I'm realizing though, Megan, and I'm not sure if any of the other listeners also feel this way. I struggle now because I try to block myself time to do certain things, but I'm realizing that these plans constantly change depending on what emails I get from either my clients or my school related emails, because school is evolving very quickly right now of what distance learning looks like, and they are constantly changing the requirements for us. So I almost need, like, my planner has been evolving. This week, luckily, is spring break for us. And this is like the first week I actually took out my passion planner and actually scheduled and color code all of my to-do list and just set block time out for when I need to complete different tasks. And that has been helpful, but like certain things, like yesterday, we had that major storm. Guess what happened? My power went out for an entire day. So was I able to complete a lot of those things on the list? No. But that's okay. That's where you need to give yourself grace and realize that there are certain things out of your control. But what I could control are exercising and focus, and I could focus on things that didn't require power, or focus on the things that I can do outside the home that doesn't require me to have power. So it seems like we have a lot of people chatting. A lot of listeners are putting posts in the chat. And I see a lot of people stating that, that their biggest challenge is trying to get a routine, but also be flexible to the needs of your team. I agree. Like I'm finding that when I was in the schools, I would really block out my time and have it so structured. Now I almost need to evolve and change how I structure out my day. Um, Megan, your schedule is much more like block scheduling, right?
Yeah, so and that's there's been quite a few comments on Facebook too. So one of Lisa mentioned doing the block scheduling. It's kind of funny because that's something I wanted to start doing back in like April of last year when I went to um the autism conference in Africa, and Molly from Global Autism Project was showing me
Yeah.
what they do, and I was like, oh, I need to do this. And then I just kept saying, I'll figure it out soon, I'll figure it out soon. And it
Hmm.
basically took COVID to get even like a slight attempt at it. I mean, it's not where I would want it to be, but like I said, I kind of went over what ours is already, but ours is more blocks of like who's responsible for Taylor or like whatever other house things are happening. And then when I have my work time, what I tend to do is sometimes I'll have meetings. So I do my meeting, but sometimes it's
Hmm.
like just an open slot of work. So I just have my different projects or activities that I need to do for work. I have those prioritized. So it's like, what my must do list is. And that's one of the things that I found helpful even before COVID-19, because my to-do list was always so long. So I have
Hmm.
like right now my shut off time is 9 o'clock for work, unless I haven't gotten through, like, say for the conference, there were certain things that had to be
Yeah.
done. So if that wasn't done by 9 o'clock and it needed to be done for the next day, obviously I would keep working on it. But if there's stuff, even if I consider it must do and I'm not done by 9 o'clock, and mine's 9 o'clock simply because, again, I'm not really getting to work until like 3, right? So if you picture the hours in there, that's still only like 4 or 5 hours of working. It's not like I'm working from like 8 a.m. until 9 p.m.
Yeah.
But I just set like that cutoff, and it's just like whatever didn't get done, well, that's top of the list for the next day. And then whatever my next things are on that must do list. And the way I organize the priorities, again, it's if something has a deadline, right, that's obviously going to come first. And then in terms of other things, it's just based on time of when it happens. So if I have like assessments that I did and I need to write those reports, then whichever one I did first needs to be prioritized. If there's different like webinars we're hosting or things like that, or projects we want to work on, I can't work on those things until I've done the other things that maybe are not as exciting for me, but they've been there longer that need to get done. So I do try to pre-mac it a little bit. So that's helped as well.
Yes, and that's like one of the ideas I had for like how we can stay motivated. So, Megan, in your own words, why is it important to stay motivated during this time?
um, well, I mean, it's kind of weird because I don't entirely think it is necessarily. I think it's what's most important is that each person does what works best for them. So for some
Mhm.
people, if like getting things done and staying motivated is what helps you navigate this uh time in our lives, then I think it's important for your own like mental health and sanity to keep people together. In terms, but for some people, especially, like, there are a lot of people right now who maybe don't have jobs and they're just like getting by, and maybe they are just sitting and watching Netflix all day or whatever. And if you're not, obviously, if you're skirting responsibilities and there's like treatment plans you're supposed to be writing and people you're supposed to be meeting with and children you need to take care of, then that's a different story. But if you don't have like any responsibilities, like, I just kind of think back to when we were in college or whatever, and we would have breaks and we would have like a month or two off with like no job or anything, and people just kind of did whatever they wanted. Like, that's cool too. So I think it kind of depends. But if you are in a situation where there are actual activities that you need to be getting done, or it just keeps you, for me, even if I didn't have anything, if I didn't have a child, if I didn't have a husband, if I was just living alone, I'm a better human when I have things to do. Like, so it would be important to stay motivated so that I could continue to like be the best human I want to. But even if you're not the best, like, it's fine to not be the best version of yourself right now too, or the best version of yourself right now might be different than the best version of yourself when this is over, right? So so that's kind of a weird answer, but that's my thoughts on it.
No, that's perfect. I totally agree. And that's one aspect that I mean, viewpoint that I never took in consideration is like, during this time, like it's okay to not be motivated. It's okay to have those days, especially if you don't have those responsibilities. Um, is it important? I do think though it is still important to stay motivated with, making sure you eat somewhat healthy, and then you take care of yourself by getting enough sleep, and also stay motivated with doing some type of movement, because I mean, depending on what state you live, like I live in Virginia right now, and we have a stay at home order until June 10th, and that's a long time just to be sitting and developing habits that are not necessarily beneficial for you, which in turn could be a long-term consequence of like there could be a long-term health consequences with choosing some bad habits too, I think.
Yep.
But if you are someone that has responsibilities, I think that's really important, where you have to stay motivated and keep yourself accountable for what you're doing every single day. Um, yes. Yes, I agree. So we had a comment in the chat box about how Easter was really rough, and I agree. Like all that Easter candy, um, all that, all the Easter dinners that you partake in, that could create some bad habits as well. So I'm thinking, so depending on who you are, I think it's important that one of the ways that we can stay motivated is by setting goals. So I think that's the first step that we need to accomplish in order to stay motivated. So like for me, for my goals is I want to at least weight lift every single day, eat 3 well balanced meals, and I want to be able to at least complete 3 major tasks every single day. And those are my goals right now. And they might evolve throughout this pandemic. Megan, do you have any goals that you set for yourself daily, or is it just very flexible?
Yeah, no goals.
No goals?
No goals. Just living life over here. Again, for me, it's not really any different right now than my normal
Yeah.
life. I just have to figure out what to do without Taylor, or with Taylor around, as opposed to him being at daycare. So I don't I did so I again I'm a big person on giving grace. So when we knew that we were going to be like ordering groceries and the store would probably be low stocked on a lot of things, I was like, yes, now is my time to eat all of the carbs and like bad stuff that I haven't eaten in years, because all the good stuff's not going to be available anyway. So I might as well just stock up. So for like the last month, basically, we had ordered like a bunch of junk food. Like, I don't typically get Doritos or Cheetos or Cheez-Its or Goldfish or pretzels or any of that kind of stuff. Chocolate chip cookies, soft batch. Oh yeah. So we got like all of those things, and I've just been eating whatever I want. But I'm always kind of looking at where I am, and then short term, like, what do I want the next few days or maybe week to look like? So I said, like, I just told myself after Easter, my clothes aren't really fitting. So, and I can't buy new ones right now. So I'm going to need to figure out a plan for that. So, felt like a month of like eating bad stuff was probably sufficient. And for my own health, for our future grocery orders, we would not have any junk food and all that kind of stuff. So kind of looking at like we were already, that stuff was finally basically about to be out of our house, so let's just not order anymore. And then for this week I set a goal of eating healthier, but nothing like in particular, like not a certain calorie count. I'm big on shaping. So it's just like this week
Yes.
you will not eat as much junk food and you will drink a little bit less than you have been. And then next week it'll be more maybe like, and you'll stick to these calories or whatever. So I also signed up. I know there's a few different websites. I'm not sure if people have used any of these, but dietbet.com. I figured since I had gained so much weight, I would easily win a round because I can hopefully lose it quickly. So I signed up for a diet bet, but I just did a month one because I've done their 6-month ones before and it's just too long. I don't stick to it. So I need to do like the short term one. So I signed up for that. Hopefully that'll keep me, when I want to maybe drift a little bit, it'll keep me motivated. I got no like goal necessarily. It's just I've paid this money, so I hope I don't lose it. And then stick.com, I don't use it. It's STICCK, I think, or STICKK.
Yeah.
But I've tried it in the past and it's just not motivating enough. But basically you sign up and you like pick what your goal is, and then you commit a certain amount of money, and maybe it would be more motivating, especially now because most of us probably have tighter finances than usual. But if
Yeah.
you meet your goal, you keep your money and maybe you win some money, I can't remember. But if you don't meet your goal, and then your money goes to a group that you don't support. So like for example, if I didn't support the NRA, my money would go to the NRA. And so it's like that negative, the aversiveness of not only do you lose your money, but it goes to like this group you don't support, tends to motivate some people. So like one of my friends, that was like the most motivating thing for her ever. But like for me, it's like, there's not like, maybe if I got like signed up for the newsletter of the group that I don't like and like got consistently reminded of like, thank you for supporting us, maybe it would be enough. But nothing like that happens. So it's not like a consequence enough for me like to be upset about it. So that's never really worked for me. But the diet bet, if I do the short-term ones, that tends to help a bit.
That's awesome. That's almost kind of like self-monitoring with reinforcement, and then that self-administrating of consequences, except for someone else is doing the consequence for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So no, that's pretty cool. And then that's one of the strategies I had for the two strategies I had for how you can keep stay motivated during this time. But you know what? There's just looking at the chat box, there are definitely other people that are agreeing with you, Megan. Is like during this time there is a lot of stuff. I mean, a lot of uncertainty still. There are still schools that are still saying that, hey, we're going to stay home until April 29th, and they don't, and people are not certain if they are going back. There are ABA companies that, we're going to stay closed until like April sometime, but they're not sure if they're going to open back up at that time. So I agree with you too. It's like, depending on your situation right now, that maybe it's really hard to identify goals for, like long term, but maybe just set a goal for day to day, and take some time every night and in the morning to plan out your day and identify one goal you want to achieve that day, just so then you can continue to have just to continue to have success.
Yeah.
So and then we have one listener. She said, I have to have one goal in each category to make progress. And I like that. I like that idea that, you take your, what you do throughout your day, like, and you have goals for different categories. And it could be working out, professional, relationship. And that's important to, like, during this time to, even check in with your spouse or significant other or your family and just check in on how they're doing, or set a goal for yourself for keeping, contact with your family. That's a great suggestion too, by the way. So another thing too, Megan, for staying motivated, is you were saying earlier about using pre-Mac principle. That's like one of my favorite things to use to help myself stay motivated during this time. Is I like to say, like, before I can watch maybe an hour of Netflix, I have to get this done first. And that way I can start, and that way I can reinforce myself right after doing that one thing that's not preferred, to get it done quicker too. Um, is that something that you set up frequently? What about the listeners? Do you guys do you guys use pre-Mac principle as well?
Yeah, I try to. I was just thinking about that for this Zoom live recording. You know, what what what's keeping people accountable though? So like you could say that's what you're going to do, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to happen. So partially for me, what tends to help is if I can have like an accountability partner. So whether it's people volunteering that, or I just post on social media and say like this is a thing I'm going to do, like once I do that it's a little bit more meaningful that I need to get that done. But also just if you have like groups of friends or whatever that you can connect with to help you like set goals and like motivate each other. I found even just checking in, hey, this, you said this thing was going to happen, how's that going? If people check in with me on something and then I'm like, ah, crap, I didn't do that yet, then I feel a little bit more motivated, that pressure that I should get it done. But I also, from like the pre-Mac thing, part of it is it has to be functional enough or like powerful enough that I need to get it done. Right. So again,
Yeah.
when looking at, so like some of the things I have to do work wise that maybe aren't as exciting for me or don't bring me as many reinforcers, but they have to be done. Like there's deadlines and things like that. So I can pre-Mac that, like, well, I need to get this done before I'm allowed to go read a book or go for a walk or do something that I enjoy. But if it were something like running, 13 miles or something like that, I don't have to do that. So
No.
I tried to pre-Mac that and said, well, I need to run 13 miles before I can have a beer or something like that. I'm just going to sit down and have a beer. Like that's what's going to happen. So there's like some qualities around it that, that I think are important too, but also keeping that in mind. Like if you're trying to pre-Mac something and it just doesn't happen, then the thing, that low preference thing, probably isn't functional and important enough. And you should probably just let that go for right now and like
Yeah.
focus on something else.
Yeah. And
Yes, Jordan said all of the races are canceled. There's no reason to run 13 miles. Exactly.
unless you're in the virtual races.
We did sign up, and my husband and I did sign up, and this was something else from like a motivation standpoint, definitely like signing up for things. So we saw there was a virtual race that came through, and now I'm getting ads for all the virtual races.
Mm-hmm.
That's a COVID-19 race, and the medal is like the COVID virus, and then
That's
like
so
a roll
cool.
of toilet paper or something. I don't know. It's just like the funniest medal ever. So my husband was like, "Oh, we have to sign up for this." So before April 30th, we have to do they had options where you could do like a 5K, a 10K, and I think even a half. And we were like, he's like, "Wait, do you get the same medal regardless of which distance you choose?" And I was like, "Yes." And he was like, "We'll do the 5K." So,
Well, that's an important topic too. It's like, do you need to do 13 miles? No. If that's not part of your goals, that's where you need to set realistic expectations for your goals. Like right now, I'm not running. I haven't been participating in some of the races with Team Hoyt, which I'm really sad about. But um, so like for me, like running consistently for 3 miles is not a goal of mine right now. Strength is a huge part of my goal set. Like I want to build strength and also lose fat. So my goal is to really work on strength training and work on while working out, but also continually to keep my heart rate up. So I'm also participating. So you were saying about having an accountability partner, which is great. And that's one of the strategies that you can have with part of your plan. And so right now I have a couple accountability partners. Couple are some co-workers of mine, and we are competing against each other on the Apple Watch, which I love. And we're trying to beat each other with how many activity points we participate in. So having an accountability partner is huge. And I know I have seen a couple people a couple of our listeners also stating that having an accountability partner for working out is big for them, or using their accountability partner for work projects around the house. I can tell you right now, even though my wife and I are not always together right now, she knows she's my accountability partner to get stuff done around the house. I have a work to-do list that's about a mile long that I'm getting done a little bit by little bit. But she's my accountability partner, and I love her for it because she keeps me straight sometimes. Because I would be laying on the couch watching Netflix, but no, there are stuff that I want to get done, and I know that she checks in with me and see how I'm doing. So, but definitely working on those house projects that I don't get to do because I'm always on the go.
Yep.
So, but yeah, I love hearing that there's a couple other listeners that have some goals, trying to decrease their weight, which is awesome. I love it. Keep up those goals. Another thing I would say is, for me, right now I do have pretzels and chips. What I need to do for myself, because I know myself, is I need to remove those items necessary for undesired behaviors. So, I mean, last week when I did that grocery list, so do you have Kroger down there, Megan?
No, we have Publix.
Okay.
It's a big grocery store here.
So Kroger is my grocery store. I love Kroger. And they have something called a click list. So I can go on their website and order groceries and just see my list. Well, I was sitting here and typing away, and I would get peanut butter, salmon, chicken, turkey, ground turkey, and then I was like, there's nothing here that's really crunchy and salty. Oh, let me put in pretzel chips, and then let me put in tortilla chips. And I realized very quickly that is not a good thing when I'm at the house all the time right now. So yes, so we have a listener that said, I replaced the snacking with water-based vegetables like celery, cucumbers, bell peppers. And I agree. That is a great suggestion. And that is something that I'm going to implement for myself next week when I order stuff from the grocery store, because I have noticed I wanted something crunchy. And I will just snack on chips throughout the day. Does any of the other listeners have a specific snack item that they have a real difficult time staying away from? I see ice cream, pretzels. If you're from
currently eating the ice cream, by the way.
Currently eating a bowl of ice cream.
Maggie's talking about the air fried veggies. So right before all this happened, we ordered the Ninja air fryer thingy. It's like this big thing. And I had a hard time convincing my husband to get it. But we've used that like daily. But initially, but mostly for things like the mozzarella sticks that I just had to have. So hopefully that was the other thing, from just like a scheduling, prioritizing things type deal. The first few weeks, or I guess first month of this, I knew my schedule was going to be crazy because of the conference and everything. So certain things have to give, right? So it was like, I'm going to be stressed. I know this is happening. We're just going to eat whatever I don't really care. Now's the time to like have whatever. And then I, when I kind of projected my schedule for like the remaining time for this, again, I have a lot of control over that. So it's like, okay, now I actually will have time to meal plan, and all of those like fun veggie healthy snacks that are in our recipe books that I've been avoiding learning about and like using the air fryer for, I could learn those now. I have capacity for that. But before, that was just not a thing that was going to happen. And I would have like really been super stressed out if I tried to add that, onto my expectations for myself. So it's kind of, shifting things. Like when I have space for it, then I'll try to have that expectation. But if too much other stuff is going on, then I won't. So hopefully I'll be reporting to everyone soon on some of the fun recipes. Maggie, if you have any that you really like, you said air fried butternut squash, zucchini, and cauliflower, great chip replacements. Yeah. My husband tried to make zucchini and squash the other day, but he was very elaborate and it took forever. And hopefully next time we figure out an easier way to do it.
Nice. Jordan said that before COVID, I would eat healthy because I knew I would eat junk food in social situations. That's been a tough transition. And I agree. Like, I know, like, I mean, what was nice is that I would be at school and I know I need to meal prep. So I would meal prep healthy stuff for the entire day. I would have my huge cooler, like a cooler that you would take to the beach, stuff with healthy food just to keep me keep me full throughout the day. But now that I'm home, it's like I don't need to. I feel at first I thought, oh, I can just do things fresh, and now I'm like going to the easiest thing I could grab and eat that. And sometimes it's not the most nutritious thing possible. Rachel said that kale chips are good too. I agree. I tried kale chips. They are good. I just haven't got a chance to do it myself. Do you have a specific snack that you like, Megan, that's
Healthy snacks?
Yeah.
Is that a thing that exists? I don't know how healthy they are, but one of my favorite things is I get it off Amazon. It's these I'm a gummy bear fiend. I love gummy bears. And they have these smart ones. It's like kick sugar, eat snacks. I don't know what it's some sort of thing like that, but they're high fiber. It's not, it's made with not sugar, probably a bunch of fake crap that I shouldn't be eating. But, so I like those and I put them in the freezer, and that makes it take longer to eat too, cause they're hard. And then I like olives are good. So I always buy a lot of olives, nuts, but, from when I did the anti-inflammatory meal plan, nuts are like a no-no. So I try to limit those. I love cheese. I need cheeses.
I do.
When I do keto or like low carb, high fat, cheese is the jam. But again, from the anti-inflammatory side of things, that's not a good one to have. So it's like this balance of things.
Is that because of dairy? Like dairy is very
the anti-inflammatory diet has a ton of stuff. Like it's very limited. You basically can eat fruits, certain veggies, and like meats. And then that's pretty much it. So we've kind of been trying to do like a mixture of, I do really well with the low carb, high fat, but we also saw some good health benefits from the anti-inflammatory. So trying to do like a mixture of those seems to be helpful. And then Rachel said she likes energy bites. I've been eating, they're not good for you, but I've been eating, I don't have the bag here. My husband got Jif makes these like peanut butter balls right now. And they have like granola on them and they're so good, but I'm sure they're not good for you.
Yeah, no, no, I can't imagine them being too healthy for you, but man, whenever you're hiking or in like kayaking, I'm sure that they would give you a nice energy boost. So a couple other people suggested replace eating out of the box container with having a fixed amount by pouring a certain amount in a small bowl and putting the box container away. I love that idea. I love that idea because you're you're uh, eating a portion of what you need to, or what an actual small portion is, which is a great suggestion. So this is one thing that I decided that I want to go back to help me to stay motivated and maintain my goals. Is first I made my goal, and then how to execute that goal. I'm just going to go back to weighing all of my food again, like when I was really into bodybuilding and going to the gym 5 days a week. Um, and that's when I made the most progress. I went from 280 pounds down to 220 pounds by doing that. So I need to start doing that again. Um, but let's go ahead and move on. Um, so to stay motivated, we talked about kind of food and health, but how about work wise? Like, so Megan, you work from home a lot, right?
Yep.
So do you ever do work in like in your bedroom, or or is there a specific place in your house where you only do work?
So now that we're in like a bigger house, because when we first moved here, we had just this like small 2 bedroom, 1 bath. So it was like the kitchen table. It's like the only place where I could do work. But now I have this like downstairs space. So I have a desk and everything set up, a bookshelf, all that fun stuff. So for like for most of my work, it happens here. I do have, when I'm not down here, I have my computer set up on our counter, which is like sort of in the middle. So if Taylor's playing and whatnot, and I need to like hop over and do something real quick, it's just right there. But usually the work that gets done there is more like responding to emails, making social media posts. It's not things that require a lot of like brain power.
Hmm.
And then at night for the work I've been doing after he goes to bed for those couple of hours, it really just depends. Like sometimes I'll sit on our couch and I'll have the iPad up with like something playing in the background, and then be working on whatever. But if it's something where I need more, like need to like be looking at papers and things like that,
Hmm.
then I'm usually either at that counter in the kitchen or I'll come down here. But so I have like my little spots in the house where I do work. I found I've never struggled with this. Like I've worked from home. I've never really had, I think the only time I've had an office job like twice in my life, and both times it wasn't like everyone was there at a certain time and checking on you. It was like I could still come and go as I pleased, and I still worked away from the office. So even when always, like I was a lifeguard, I didn't ever really work in situations where I had to so I've just always kind of worked wherever, and it's been fine. But I know some people say like they can only work at the library, or if they go to like Panera or Starbucks or something, like they have to get out of their house, because if they're in their house, they get easily distracted by like other things that are happening. And that's never been a problem for me. That's just, I just sit down and work. I'm usually the opposite, which I've seen some people comment about as well, like pulling away from work to do the other things. That's more why I have my set locations. It's more to like set a clear boundary around, I'm only working here. I'm not working in these other places.
Yeah. So like for me, so before COVID-19, like on the weekends, that was my time to do any work for school or for clients, because I'm so busy through a week. So I would give myself some time and sit on the couch and spend all day on like Saturday, Sunday planning, or, doing things I need to do. And that was my jam. That was my spot, and that was okay. But now I find myself to be busy, and I really need to be focused on what I'm doing. So the first 2 weeks I was I was out in the living room a lot. And I was like, enough of this. I need to have a spot where I just go to work. This is my workspace. So I moved to my office and I set up shop here. I actually took another table. So I have my desk. I love my desk, but the lighting is so bad that you can't see my face. So I set up a plastic table, and I have two desks I'm working off of now, with my stuff in different places and organized. And I feel so much more focused now because I have my actual like workplace and I feel comfortable. This is a place, and that's another thing is you need to set up your environment for um, your for success and set up your environment that's comfortable, reinforcing, and makes you want to work. So like the paint color, I made it a specific. I designed it a certain way. It's bright. It's a nice temperature in here, so I just arranged this environment for maximum focus and so then I can continue to make progress on all my goals I have and continue to work on the things I have without getting distracted. I have no TVs in my office or anything. So that's how, like, one of the ways I'm able to remain focused. So, but so let's go back to listeners. So does anyone have do you guys have a certain area where you guys focus do better at focusing on working on your items, or do you are you adjusting, or are you able to just focus anywhere? So I know Jordan said that they have a home office now, and you were planning on repainting it, but now she's reconsidering, which is a good idea because, like, I know for me, like, for the longest time, I spent time on the paint choice, and I wanted something that was calming and soothing to me that allows me to not get distracted by what's going around me. So that has been very helpful for me. So I don't see any more comments. So I think oh, Megan, you're muted.
There's been quite a few comments coming through on Facebook, so at some point we can pause. Nobody commented on that particular question, but there's a few good nuggets of information on the Facebook feed too, if we want to talk about that at all.
Yeah, let's go ahead and talk about that.
So some of it's going to seem a little bit out of order. I don't know why this happens, but like part of the comments disappeared. So I apologize for that. But Aaron was saying that, and now the one I wanted to tell you about is gone. But Aaron was saying that basically they've been trying to set a schedule where they go for a walk or do some sort of exercise as soon as they get up in the morning. But she has children, and that's a good way to like help tire them out so that then they can do their work, so her and her husband. So I thought that was a good idea if you have kids. And then for some reason, all the comments keep disappearing again. I don't understand. So, and then Lena said something, but it's gone and my brain doesn't hold information right now. So sorry, Lena. Aaron also said planning it out is helpful. Ain said having a predictable routine for a week, not more, taking it a day at a time. And I think we've touched on this a little bit. Jawanda was asking, so this is something that maybe we can all chat about, that her therapists have been a big help. They love all the training they've been providing. So their recognition has been the best reinforcement, but now they're kind of looking for more projects to have. After the next week or two will be challenging. So if anyone has ideas of different projects to do with your team while we're all quarantined or stuck at home, feel free to type those in the chat box. Joe, you and I can come back to that too when we get there. Okay. Lisa also said they've been walking in the morning and they started about doing a mile and now it's about 3, but it's just a good way to start the day. And let's see. A lot of people were commenting that they like the bullet journal and that's been really helpful. Claire said that 2 things that are really important for her is scheduling an AM meeting at like 8:30 and ensuring that she showers and gets ready like it's a real day. And I fortunately haven't had to schedule any morning meetings, and I try to avoid it right now because I'm in charge of Taylor at that time, but I definitely have to shower. Like I don't do well in my day if I don't shower and get going. So I don't know if any other people have that as well, but that's definitely a thing for me too. Christina says she's created her own planner to keep her on track, but she's struggling with maintaining the plans. So that's one thing I did want to touch on. So we've kind of talked about this a little bit, but that staying flexible. So when I make plans, if I'm struggling with keeping them or like my system's not working, I act just like a behavior analyst and I look at why, what is it about this that's not working and how can I shift it? And again, it may not be working because maybe it's just not functional. Maybe it's not realistic. Maybe it's not what's most meaningful for your life right now. And because sometimes we get these visions and we get these ideas, and I've definitely lived that mistake numerous times in the past where like, I had a break for when I was in school, or I had a bunch of clients that would be out of town, or I was on maternity leave and I would think like, oh, I'm going to get X, Y, and Z done, or maybe I'm traveling and I'm going to read these different books or whatever. And I would have these like big pictures of like all this stuff I would get done, and it never happened. But it took me several years to stop just doing that, right? Like I would like pack all this stuff and be like, I'm going to get all these things done. And then they wouldn't happen. And I'd be like, oh man, I got nothing done. And it took quite some time for me to realize like, clearly, if you keep making that mistake over and over, like something needs to change here. And it's not really a mistake, but it's just like, you think these things are going to happen and they're not. So clearly it must not be as important as you think it is. So I don't know what's motivating for us about why we come up with these grand plans and think we're going to get through all this stuff, but just realize that it's not that big of a deal. So if there's things that you're trying to get done and they're not happening, the first step obviously would be, okay, well, do these things need to happen? Are they actually things that are functional for my life right now? And obviously remove any of the things that really aren't. Like they may sound good, like I did yoga every day, or I read 50 books or whatever. Like they may sound cool, but if they're not, directly relevant and functional for your life right now, then just set them aside. And then for the other pieces, it's like, if I'm not, able to get certain things done, it's like, okay, why? So for a couple of the weeks here, I had too many meetings scheduled. So during the little bit of work time that I had, I wasn't getting enough work done. So again, I'm flexible and I can just not schedule meetings right now. So, and I don't feel bad setting those boundaries and just being like, nope, I'm not taking on anything else right now. So you'll have to wait. Like Taylor's here. I'm with him most of the day. Those things just aren't getting done. So I'm not going to try to like break myself adding in things that just make it more stressful. But that's the piece that I would really look at is, why, whatever plans you're coming up with, like, why is it not working? And that's fine. It's nothing against yourself or anything like that, but then just like modify it. You might have to just break it down and make less stuff happening. Joe, you were talking about how you have the planner, but then something might come up from school or the power might be out or something. So then even recognizing that, okay, this week, those things came up. Maybe I need to have some sort of contingency plan in place where I have like my backup of like, if this doesn't work, like this is what I need to do instead. But obviously reflecting in the moment, like, okay, well, this was a thing I didn't think was going to happen. And like being able to have like, this is where I'm going to set this aside. And these are the things I have to focus on, like really knowing what your priorities are. I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
Yeah, no, that's great. Like, yeah. And I totally believe in that self-evaluation and like just awareness of like what's going on with your day-to-day activities. And always like, I find myself, the more I can reflect on how my day is going at the end of the day, the better prepared I am for the next day. And I feel like for me, that like right now, like I spent 2 days on my planner and setting up the way I wanted it, which I have been doing from like when I was in school. But I'm realizing it's not really benefiting me right now because of the constant inflow. I mean, like a constant change in schedule or different things popping up all the time. Or I might have a task that I really want to complete, and I set aside 4 hours to complete it, but it really ends up taking me like 8 hours. And I think like for me, like after evaluating that this week, between Sunday, Monday, and today, I really need to go back and just adjust how I identify what things need to be completed. Like I know blocking my schedule, like I give myself like, this is my window of doing work and that's it. I'm not going to identify what specific tasks I need to do, but this is my work schedule, and then this is what I'm going to do next. And I think that's going to be much more beneficial for me, to set those things up in that way.
Yep. Yeah.
So,
And we had Lisa, kind of similar to what we talked about, but she said, be sure not to put too much on your planner, make an overarching goal or outcome. Those two things made a difference for her. So again, you may have like a million things that need to get done, but being realistic about just reflecting on like, well, right now I'm only getting about one must do thing done. So make your plan based around that, right? Then you're going to feel more successful. Somebody else mentioned that they like put down even mundane things like do the dishes, fold laundry, right? Just that power of like crossing something off of a list can be really reinforcing too. And then Christina said she tries to set an overarching goal for the year, but that's been so hard to even touch. So setting smaller goals might be more realistic. Crystal said they have 2 daily Zooms. They do a wellness check for their working staff, and then they also do staff on furlough, and then they have a second Get Our Day Organized Zoom. So I've definitely found that we have like a few group text message chats that I didn't have before COVID, that started more around the conference, but then after the conference was over, we've still been just like checking in with each other and sharing funny stories about our day and things like that. And that's been really helpful. I've been doing a lot of social Zooms. So whether I'm organizing them, we have a tequila one coming up on Saturday, April 18th. So whether I'm organizing that or I'm just participating in ones that other people are doing, that's been really helpful to stay motivated, and just connected, like having that human connection. Some of the Facebook groups I'm in, just different fun posts that people are making where you comment on different experiences you're having. I think connecting with people and seeing that you're not the only one experiencing certain struggles or certain wins is helpful as well, because this is all like uncharted territory for a lot of us. So being able to see what people are doing, but then you have to be careful that you don't make the mistake of comparing yourself to others, right? So, oh man, Susie's like knocking out like 20 goals a day and I can barely get out of bed. Okay, that's fine. Barely get out of bed. So, right? Like that doesn't mean one better than the other, you know? So just doing what's like works for you and trying to resist that urge to compare yourself to someone else.
Yeah, and some people, and this is where social media gets dangerous too. It's like if you compare yourself to other people on social media, you got to also understand that they might be in a different spot. They might be. So like I like to follow a lot of people that are fitness gurus, and I see what they're doing, and I'm like, man, they are just knocking these workouts out. But that's their job too.
Right.
And they are also fit that way. I mean, they are conditioned to do that many workouts, and you just have to keep in mind, like in the back of mind, I'm going to do the best that I can do at the present moment, and just continue to make improvements. So, but no, that's all I have. About that, Megan. So
okay. So we do have a few more comments on the Facebook Live. I really like Kelly's suggestion here. She said she tries to split her day into quadrants. So something for herself, something for her daughter, something for work, and something for the house. So it's not necessarily equal amounts of time, but she makes sure she's hitting each of those during the day. And that's basically similar to the schedule we have come up with, like I was mentioning earlier. So I do think having that plan and trying to just separate it out, but being realistic about it. And for some people, they may do best with like an actual, you know, this is the time of the day I'm doing my me time, and this is the time of the day I'm doing like time with my child. If some people might need to do more of the like fly by the seat of your pants, and it's like what needs to happen right now and you do that, but then as you go throughout the day, you kind of like tick off the boxes and you're like, okay, I already had my me time because I woke up this morning feeling kind of crappy and I just needed to sit and have some coffee and like listen to nature for a little bit, you know? So you might do it that way too, where it's a little bit more flexible, but you're just like doing a self check of like, okay, what have I not, like which quadrant did I not get to today? Some those are her 4 quadrants. People may have different quadrants, or they might
Mm-hmm.
have not even quadrants. They might only have 2 things, or they might have 8 things that they have, to get to. But I thought that was a really good
That's a really
suggestion.
neat, yeah, that's a really cool idea. I have never heard of breaking your day up in quadrants like that. That's really interesting.
Yeah. Cynthia said the most challenging part for her has been setting boundaries regarding work and creating a self-care schedule for herself. I think that's one thing that I've been fortunate, because I've worked from home for so long, can like just without even leaving to see clients. Like I literally have worked from home for the last 3 years at least. So I think I've had to figure out all of those things before this, so that I haven't struggled there. But again, it's just really being strict about it. Like for me, what I know I need is having those times laid out. Like if you looked at my calendar, you'd see it says like when I'm doing what, and
Hmm.
that I have that 9 o'clock cutoff time. So, and I just make myself stick to it. I've come to the point over the years with, the contingencies I've faced and the historical shaping of my behavior to that's what I do. But other people, something else may be more successful, but that's where it's been really helpful for me. My husband also has pushed on that a lot over our 10 years of marriage. Like it's been a slow shaping process from when we first, were together, where I was working from like 7 a.m. until midnight pretty much every day, to the point that we got to now. But if you have someone that can kind of help shape that and check in with you and make sure that you're giving yourself time and doing what you need to. But some people I know right now are just working a lot. For some people, maybe that's what makes them their best self right now. So again, that's where you get into that. It's weird, but for some people, self-care might be doing more work. If that's motivating for them and like gives them a lot of reinforcers, that could be self-care. If it's more stressful and it just makes you annoyed and it's aversive, then obviously that's not a form of self-care. But again, that don't compare yourself type thing. Like if you're contacting a lot of reinforcement and you're getting the things done that you need to get done, it might not be a bad thing if you're working more than you typically would.
Yeah, no, that's really important too, because like for me, like I'm working a lot between my jobs, but I find myself like if I'm not busy, then I'm doing something wrong. And or if I'm not busy, I'm not connecting to enough reinforcement. I know for me, like I don't find reinforcement by sitting down all day and doing nothing.
Right.
So
And some people might, and that's
and
fine,
and that's fine. That's depending on your goals and what is reinforcing to you. So
Yep. Just a couple more comments on Facebook, and then we can kind of wrap. I know we've been going for a little bit over an hour, and we had some great action, but of course, people had other things to get to.
yeah.
So there was just some suggestions on snacks that we were talking about earlier. So Lena said that she likes bananas and soy milk and sugar, fortune cookies, pretzels, honey graham crackers. A lot of people, some people said they also like cheese. Crystal recommended the Smart Sweets, which are the gummy bears that I was talking about
Hmm.
earlier. So that's the food piece. And then Shane, when we were talking about office space, was saying he switches from his home office to his outside office. So he switches back and forth between
Nice.
those. It's kind of hot here already in Florida, and we've also been having like warmer weather than is typical, and the mosquitoes already are ridiculous where I live. So I haven't been spending a ton of time outside working. We might go in the pool and stuff like that, but it's too hard to sit outside and work. All right, that's it for the Facebook comments. So I was able to get through all those. Yay.
That's awesome. Thank you, Megan.
Yeah, so
Cool.
just to circle back around before we go, because I don't want to forget,
Yeah.
did anybody that's still watching have suggestions for Jawanda about activities her therapist can do? They've already covered professionalism, ethics, documentation, ABA boot camp, the RBT task list, motivation and reinforcement, verbal behavior, and decreasing challenging behavior. I obviously, my suggestion would be if they haven't consumed the Do Better webinars, those are all free. And we have from 2018, my favorite is the navigating challenging behavior and the demand fading and functional communication training. That was in June. Navigating challenging behavior was in September. Early intervention from April. Parent training from March. Those are my favorite ones. Obviously, I'm biased. I like all of them because I made them all. But those are the ones that I think are like the most impactful, especially for RBTs. And then, but for 2019, we had a bunch of different guest presenters. So if they're wanting to learn more about acceptance and commitment therapy, we have one with Tommy Perry on using acceptance and commitment therapy with families. We have a bunch of different ones with the schools. So there's a lot of different interesting topics there from 2019. And then for 2020, we have a few that we've done already as well. So I obviously am going to be biased there. I've also created, and I'll put it in the chat box, an autism resources table that has a bunch of the different free trainings and different opportunities that are out there that people could work through for right now. So if it's to continue with training, that would be those resources. I would definitely check those out. If you're wanting something beyond training that is a little bit different, I did, for when I was doing supervision, I've created like fake cases before, and we'll do different activities around that. So like we did a challenging behavior scenario and like practice doing a functional behavior assessment. Joe probably would have been better to do during 2020, but we had the BCBA Now What last year that we did, and we went through like, how do you what does the intake process look like, and what do you do with that information, and how do you decide what assessments to use? And we walked through a lot of the things that people, even once they get certified, it's just not as well trained. So we had a lot of, and for those, it wasn't training necessarily. We'd meet for an hour on Zoom and kind of have the seasoned BCBAs talk about like, oh, these are the things I typically do during intake, and like, this is how I choose my assessments. These are some of the strategies I use for working with parents. So it was more of like an open-ended conversation and some resource sharing as opposed to like an explicit training.
And that was really helpful too, by the way.
Yes, it was. But I think like this year probably would have been better for us. We always only had a few people on because everybody was working all the time. So, well, too bad it's not happening now. But anyone, I know we only have a few people still on with us live, but is there anyone that has things that they're doing with their therapists to help with keeping them busy? The other thing too, it could be that you don't do anything, depending on, I think some people are getting into a groove now, but I think the longer that this goes on, we also have to be mindful that it may get even harder for people. So for me, I don't know if it was because I had the conference or what, but like the first few weeks weren't that bad. Last week was super hard. So the week, it was basically like the first full week of April. I didn't have anything stressful happening that I was aware of, like work-wise or child-wise or spouse-wise or anything like that. But it was really difficult for me to stay in like a positive space last week. It was just a rough week. I was just sad, and I wasn't even having thoughts about like, man, I really wish I could go to this place or that place. It was just like, I don't know. I wasn't contacting typical other reinforcers outside of the house that I probably am feeling some deprivation about. And I haven't thought about it, but I just was sad. And it was difficult. So I think for my son, he's not expressing to us vocally that he's like missing anything in general, but I'm sure he's experiencing that as well. So we're probably going to have some stressors happening soon around his behavior, starting to see more issues there. I would imagine for a lot of children that's going to happen regardless of their age, where it's like, why are we not going to these places? And, having that mixture of different types of reinforcers that we would typically contact. So I think keeping that, for some people, it'll be helpful to have work to do and things to look forward to in that way. But some people may also hit a wall where they're just like, I'm over it. I'm done.
Yeah.
And some people hit that wall already, and maybe they've worked through it, or maybe they're still there. Some people maybe hit the ground running and they were super excited to try something new, but eventually they're going to satiate on the current reinforcers and have a lot of deprivation for the reinforcers they're missing out on, and they may, have a harder time. So keeping that in mind, that our motivations are going to shift and change and be flexible with that, I think is really important too.
Yeah, I agree. And it's going to be, so what I've been doing for my students is like, I've been posting a lot. So I've been using a platform called Seesaw to connect with my students and parents, and just trying to interact with them daily with videos and fun messages, just to keep them, just to allow them to see me, and also to keep some type of communication going, just so then they so then they just come in contact with me and know that I'm still here for them. So that's been a huge change. I can't imagine what school's going to be like in September already.
Yeah.
So just because it's going to be a complete 360 for everyone.
Yep.
So,
Definitely.
but that's why it's so important to keep up ritual routines or create your new rituals and routines during this time.
Mm-hmm.
So, and if something happens where it doesn't happen, that's fine. So,
Yep. Okay, so that was all for the different comments. I didn't see anything in addition come through regarding activities. Sorry, Jawanda, that we didn't have additional ideas around that. Joe, I know you had a couple of more things. Did you have a few other topic areas regarding motivation? I think there was maybe one or two things we didn't touch on yet. Or
yeah, there was just a few other things. So one of the things I was going to talk about was just also to stay away from bootleg reinforcement during this time, and also to work on self-administering consequences. So like if you didn't do something, your consequence would be to put so much money into a jar. So like for me, an example for me would be if I didn't lift or work out today, then I had to put $5 in the savings jar. So that would be a consequence, because that's $5 I can't spend on myself at the time.
Yeah.
So, and that would go away. But if you want to create a self-management program, couple of the steps would be to identify a goal and define the behavior. And then you begin a self-monitoring. You self-monitor your behavior by contriving contingencies. And then you can also go public with your commitment to change your behavior. So me, I'm going public now. I'm going to lift 5 times a week. 5 times a week. So I'm going public and I'm committed to change my behavior right now because it's a goal of mine and something I want to do. And then I can continue to evaluate and set my self-management of the program by keeping track. And then also people, my people that I also are working out with, they can help me be accountable for making sure I'm working out as well. So
I like that.
do you have anything to add?
None of that stuff typically works for me. It's just like, I don't know, like I don't, especially from like a monetary perspective, it just doesn't have an effect on my behavior right now. So that doesn't, I've tried, like I mentioned before with that stick thing, and it just didn't affect my behavior. For me, again, it's more about just the shaping process with myself. So looking at where I currently am, like what's my baseline, where do I want to be, and having just like small steps towards that, I found is the most successful. The other one though is also just going like hard line. So before I went on the cruise in February, we did that anti-inflammatory diet because my husband has Hashimoto's. And it was like this complete, 180 shift in everything we'd been doing food wise. So I either have to have something like that where it's just like, boom, here you go. This is what you're doing. Or if that's not realistic, which it really isn't right now, because like getting the different food items to follow a meal plan like that is not guaranteed right now. Right. So for where I am right now, it's more about the shaping process where it's okay, this is what I'm currently doing, and I'd like to be back to eating fully healthy again, but I'm not going to make the shift overnight. So, getting more healthy stuff in planning a few meals for this week, and then just like continuing to increase that. is what's going to work for me. Work wise, again, I don't typically, I have too much, I usually take on too much work. So it's the other way around. I have to figure out like making sure I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
So I haven't had to do anything there. I do try, with work to make sure that I'm incorporating like conversations with my husband, and now like my child's old enough too. So both of those,
Yeah.
they keep me on track, right? If I'm starting to work too much, they let me know. So that helps too. And it's hard because I get like so many reinforcers out of the work I do. So it's
Yeah.
hard to like step back from that.
Yeah. And then that brings up a good point too. Is like, I like to also just keep in mind that everyone's different, and strategies I have or strategies that Megan have might not work for everyone. It just depends on what works for you. And
Yep.
there's going to be a period that you're going to have to try something and it doesn't work, and you're going to have to do that self-evaluation and find out what works for you. And it might take a little bit of time, but that's okay. As long as you're keep on trying to make progress towards your goals.
Yep.
So that's all I have for this topic, Megan.
Okay.
That's been an awesome hour and a half though.
Yeah. We had a few people that commented on the original post we made about that we were doing this, just to share, to close out some of the comments people had around that and like what things they're doing to stay motivated. Some of it's what we've already talked about, but just in case, I don't want to miss any helpful recommendations. So we had Judy was doing well until her power went out. So she did stay motivated yesterday by planting and making mini greenhouses. So that's good. I think you mentioned that too. It was just kind of like, well, what things can I do when the power is out?
Yeah, what can I do? I mean, for me, it was like, all right, well, I have a backup battery. I'm going to use that. And then I'm going to hotspot from my phone onto my laptop.
Yeah.
So I could do some work. So
Amanda said she's staying motivated by setting personal goals and having accountability partners, both professionally and personally. I struggle with navigating the uncharted territories we are all dealing with. It is easier knowing I'm not alone and hearing how others are managing. I think that's really helpful. We mentioned that earlier too.
Yeah.
Connie said she's staying motivated by picking up old hobbies in her personal time. And she's also taking on a mentee to help keep her fresh on strategies and remind her of why she fell in love with the field. Sherry said she has accountability buddies and they're doing a yoga challenge. So that's awesome. I did download the Peloton app. It's free, 90 days, and you don't even have to put in your credit card or anything. And they have yoga and like body strength and walking and running. So you don't even have to have like a treadmill or a bike or anything. They have workouts that you can do in there. So I thought I'd try those and see how
that's awesome.
Yeah. And then Kelly, she kind of mentioned in the chat already, but she's staying motivated by seeing this as a time to do things she hasn't had time for. So some exercise, trying to get a little bit more organized, all of that kind of stuff. So, and taking care of your mental health. So again, whatever works best for you. And it doesn't have to be a huge thing. Like even if, maybe you do yoga for 5 minutes, right? Or like you work on your hobby for just a few minutes. And if again, I'm just kind of this idea of, if it's reinforcing enough and functional enough for you right now, it will happen. And like that 5 minutes will eventually turn into 10 or 30 minutes and you'll make time for those things, but don't beat yourself up if you think you are planning to do this grand thing and it doesn't happen. So I think that's where, again, starting out with like a small bit, experience it. And then if it's meaningful enough for you right now, like you'll keep doing it. If it's not, let it drop and figure out something else.
Awesome. I totally agree with that. That's a great great nugget of information and tips and strategies there.
Yeah.
So,
well, I think we've talked about a lot. I've had my little side conversations as I usually do. But I didn't go on any, rants or anything this time. I don't think.
No, you didn't. But, we might have to do another Megan rant, here soon.
Oh, I'm sure we'll have plenty of time for that. So, all right. Well, thanks everyone for joining us live and contributing to the conversation. We hope you enjoyed this. If you haven't checked it out yet, Joe and I recorded quite a few new little 10
We'll
minute or
decide.
less podcast bonuses called We'll Decide Wednesday. So we have a few more pre-recorded ones that'll come out each Wednesday. We have some that already came out, and they're
Mhm.
fun. They're short. We really enjoyed making them, and then we'll be doing them live, probably starting, I think, in May. So
Okay.
hopefully we'll get some more live active engagement when we do those. But it's really fun. The wheel decides what we're talking about, and we don't prep or anything, and it's a lot of
It's on the fly.
fun. All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Have a great day.